I died. But what happened next? No one could have prepared me for it. One moment, I was driving. The next, everything went black. I didn't feel pain, no crash, no impact, just a deafening silence, as if the entire world had vanished in an instant. And then I was falling. It wasn't like floating in a dream. It was fast, terrifying, as if something had ripped me away from reality and thrown me into an endless abyss. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I looked around. Only darkness. No light, no tunnel, nothing like the stories I had heard about. Near-death experiences, just an overwhelming void that swallowed everything. And then I saw them. At first I thought they were shadows, but they moved, crawled, twisted. Figures barely visible in the darkness, watching me, reaching for me. I could feel them pulling me down, cold, unseen hands grabbing at my legs, my arms, a force stronger than gravity itself, dragging me into the depths of something I didn't understand. Terror gripped me. My mind screamed, but my body was paralyzed. This wasn't death. It was something worse, and just when I thought I was lost forever, the light came, a burst of brilliance, blinding and pure, cutting through the shadows like a sword of fire. The creatures shrieked and recoiled, dissolving into nothing, and then from within the light a figure emerged, not human, not like anything I had ever seen, a presence so powerful that reality itself seemed to tremble. I didn't need words to understand. This was not a dream. This was real, and what I was about to learn would change everything. I couldn't move. The darkness wrapped around me like chains, dragging me deeper into the abyss. The weight of it was unbearable, pressing against my chest, suffocating me. The shadows weren't just watching anymore. They were pulling me down. I could feel them. Cold, invisible hands gripping my ankles, clawing at my arms. The deeper I fell, the heavier my body became, as if I were sinking into a pit with no bottom. I tried to fight. I struggled, kicking, thrashing, but it was useless. Then the whispers started. At first they were faint, like voices carried by the wind. But soon they grew louder, overlapping, surrounding me from every direction. I couldn't understand the words, but I didn't need to. They were speaking about me, mocking me, claiming me. The realization hit me like ice in my veins. They weren't just pulling me down. They were taking me somewhere I wasn't supposed to escape from. Terror surged through me. I fought harder, clawing at the empty space around me, desperate to hold on to something, anything, but there was nothing. I was alone. And then, a flash of light. Not just light, an explosion of brilliance, so intense that it seared through the darkness like fire. The shadows recoiled instantly, shrieking in agony. Their grip on me loosened, and for the first time, I felt weightless. Then, I saw it. A figure stepping forward from within the light. At first, I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. It was unlike anything I had ever known. Tall, radiant, cloaked in a shimmering glow, with an aura so powerful that it felt like reality itself trembled in its presence. I couldn't see a face, only light, pure, overwhelming light. And then the wings, massive, unfolding behind the figure in a slow, deliberate motion. Not feathery, not delicate, powerful, ancient, alive, and in that instant I knew this wasn't a hallucination. I was standing before something divine. The shadows tried to resist. I saw them twisting and writhing as if attempting to strike back. But the figure didn't move. It simply raised a hand, and the entire abyss shook with a force beyond anything I had ever felt. The darkness didn't just fade. It was erased. Vanished. Gone. A silence followed, not empty, but sacred. Then the figure spoke, but not with a voice. It spoke directly into my soul. You were not meant to see them. I felt the words more than I heard them. They vibrated inside me, filling every part of my being, but they have always seen you. I couldn't respond. I couldn't move. I was frozen in awe, in fear, in something beyond comprehension. And then the figure lowered its gaze to me. "You are not lost." The words wrapped around me like warmth, dissolving the last traces of fear in my heart. You were never lost. I felt something then, something strange, something I couldn't explain. I looked down at my own body. My skin was glowing. No, not my skin, my mark. The birthmark I had carried my entire life, the one I never questioned. It was shining, pulsing with the same light as the being before me. My mind raced, struggling to grasp the impossible. What is happening? I finally managed to whisper. The figure took a step closer, and for the first time I felt something radiating from it. Not just power, not just light. Recognition. "I have been with you since the beginning." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Who are you?" For a moment, silence. Then, "I am the one who guards you, and now it is time for you to remember." And with that, everything around me exploded into light. Light, it consumed everything. The abyss was gone. The darkness, the whispers, the shadows, all of it had been erased. And yet, I was still there. I could feel the presence standing before me, its energy so immense that it made the very fabric of my existence tremble. Slowly, the brilliance dimmed, allowing me to see again. I was no longer falling. I was standing or floating. It was impossible to tell. And then I saw it, my birthmark. It was glowing, alive with the same light as the being before me. I raised my hand, staring at it, confusion swirling inside me. "Why is this happening?" I whispered. The figure took a step closer. Its radiance no longer blinded me, but instead I felt something else, familiarity, because it is time you know the truth. The words weren't just heard, they were felt. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. The truth about what? About your mark, and what it truly means. I hesitated, my fingers tracing the outline of the mark on my skin. I'd never thought much about it before. It was just there. Something I was born with. But now, standing in this impossible place, hearing these impossible words, I felt something stir inside me, fear. "What are you saying?" I managed to ask. The being moved closer, and suddenly images flooded my mind. Not just images, memories, flashes of another life, another existence, a blade, a sharp pain, darkness. I gasped, stumbling backward, my heart racing. It felt so real. "No," I muttered. "That wasn't me. That wasn't my life." The being's presence didn't waver. "It was," it said, "just not in this life." I looked up, my breath shallow, my hands shaking. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the mark you carry is not a coincidence. It is a scar, a wound from another time, another death." The words hit me like a tidal wave. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. "Your birthmark is the last wound you suffered before your soul left your previous body." My mind refused to accept. It couldn't be true, and yet, somewhere deep inside me, I knew it was. "No," I whispered again. "That's not possible." The being remained silent, allowing the weight of its words to settle over me. I don't believe in reincarnation," I stammered. "It is not about belief," the voice responded. "It is about truth, and the truth does not require your belief to exist." I shook my head, my thoughts racing. "But why? Why would this happen?" The being's glow pulsed slightly, as if considering my question. "Some souls leave this world with unfinished paths. Some carry wounds too deep to heal in a single lifetime, and when they return, they bring a piece of their past with them." I felt my stomach tighten. "You mean," I swallowed, "everyone who has a birthmark?" The being nodded. "They all carry the scars of their past deaths. Some are small, faint. Others are more pronounced. But they all mean the same thing. They did not leave peacefully. A shiver ran down my spine. But why, I thought, why would we carry these marks? The being's presence seemed to shift, and for the first time I sensed something different, sadness, because those who bear these marks are bound to something unfinished, it said, and they must learn how to break free from it. I clenched my fists, trying to process everything. And if they don't, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The being was silent for a moment. Then it spoke. Then the darkness will always follow them. The words sent a chill through me. I remembered the shadows that had tried to drag me away, the whispers, the cold hands pulling me down. You mean those things? I hesitated. They were there because of my mark. The being didn't respond right away. Not just yours, it finally said, but everyone's. A terrible realization dawned. On me, they feed on it, don't they? I muttered. On the pain, the unfinished wounds. Yes, the being confirmed. I felt like my chest was caving in. Then how do we stop it? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. How do we break free? The being took another step closer. The light surrounding it grew softer, warmer. By understanding, by facing what was left undone, and by choosing not to let the past define you. It raised a hand, and suddenly the space around us shifted. I saw people, millions of them, some old, some young. All of them had marks. I watched as some of them struggled through life, burdened by unseen forces. But others shined. Those who embrace their strength rise above the weight of their past, the being said, and those who do not remain trapped in its cycle. The vision faded, and I was left standing there shaken to my core. So, what am I supposed to do? I asked, my voice unsteady. That is up to you, the being answered, but now you know the truth, and that is where all journeys begin. I looked down at my mark one last time. It was no longer glowing, but now I saw it for what it truly was, a scar, a reminder, and a choice. I stood there staring at my mark. It no longer glowed, yet I could still feel it pulsing under my skin as if something inside me had awakened. I looked up at the radiant being before me, my mind still reeling from what it had just revealed. So those who bear these marks are being hunted? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The being was silent for a moment. Then it spoke. Not hunted. Tested. I frowned. Tested? By who? By those who do not wish for you to break free. I felt my stomach tighten. I already knew what it meant. The shadows, I muttered. The things that tried to take me before you appeared. The being nodded. They have always been there, watching, waiting, and the ones who bear these marks attract them the most. A shiver ran down my spine. Why? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. The being's glow shifted, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm. Because you are dangerous to them, it said. I blinked, confused. Dangerous? How? Because those who carry these marks have seen death before. They have survived what should have consumed them, and that makes them stronger than most. But I didn't survive, I argued. I died, Yet here you stand. The weight of its words settled over me. But what does that mean? I pressed. What am I supposed to do? The being's wings shifted slightly, as if responding to an unseen force. It is not about what you must do. It is about what you must choose. I exhaled shakily. Choose what? To remain in the cycle or to break free? I felt my pulse quicken. What cycle? The being extended a hand and suddenly the space around us shifted. I saw people, millions of them. Each one carried a birthmark, just like mine. Some lived their lives haunted by misfortune, always feeling as if something unseen held them back. Others faced immense struggles, constantly tested by unseen forces, their spirits worn down by hardship and pain. And then I saw another group. They were different. They carried the same marks, yet they shined. Their presence was stronger, their eyes clear. They moved through life with a purpose, as if nothing could shake them. "What is the difference?" I asked, unable to tear my gaze away. "Strength of spirit," the being answered. "Those who give in to the weight of their past remain shackled by it. They struggle, unaware of what holds them back. But those who rise above it, they become warriors of the light." I swallowed hard. "Warriors of the light? But how?" I whispered. "How do they rise above it?" The being turned to me, by understanding that they are not victims, by realizing that they are not cursed but chosen, and by fighting back. I frowned. Fighting against what? The being's glow pulsed again, and I felt the answer before it even spoke. Against the darkness that does not wish to let them go. A cold dread settled in my chest. "The shadows," I muttered. "They don't just try to take us when we die, they follow us through life." "Yes," the being confirmed. The realization hit me like a shockwave. The unexplained misfortunes. The moments of despair. The feelings of being watched, drained, as if something unseen was always pressing down on me. "They've been trying to break me this whole time," I whispered. The being nodded. "They fear those with strong spirits and those who carry the marks. They have walked through the veil of death before. That makes them the greatest threat." "Threat to what?" I asked, dreading the answer. The being's presence seemed to intensify. "To the order that has been placed upon this world, to the forces that work in the unseen, feeding off fear, doubt, and despair. Those who remain blind are easy to control, but those who wake up—" It paused. "They are the ones who change everything." I felt a lump form in my throat. "But if that's true, then why doesn't everyone know this?" The being turned its gaze toward the endless expanse before us. "Because the greatest trick darkness ever played was convincing the world that it does not exist." I felt my chest tighten. "So what now?" I asked. "What happens to those who choose to fight?" For the first time, I saw something in the being's presence that I hadn't noticed before. Pride. Then they become what they were always meant to be. They become warriors. I swallowed hard. Warriors for what? For truth, for light, for the souls who are still trapped in the illusion. The weight of its words settled over me like an avalanche. "And what about those who don't fight?" I asked. The being's glow dimmed slightly. "Then they remain bound to the cycle. And when they return, the shadows will be waiting." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked down at my mark one last time. It wasn't just a scar. It wasn't just a random birthmark. It was a reminder, a warning, and a choice. I exhaled shakily. So what do I do now? The being's presence seemed to pulse with a quiet power. "That is up to you," it said. "But know this. The moment you choose to rise, they will try to bring you down." I clenched my fists, "And if I fight?" The being's glow flared brilliantly. "Then you will never fall again." The light around me began to shift. The being's presence, once overwhelming, now felt distant, as if reality itself was pulling me away. I wasn't ready. "Wait!" I called out, panic rising in my chest. "I still have so many questions." But the being didn't answer. Instead, its glow began to fade, its form dissolving into the very air around me. And then everything went dark. A deafening silence surrounded me, and suddenly I gasped for air. My lungs burned as if I had been underwater for hours. My body convulsed, every nerve screaming as if I had been ripped from another world. And then I felt it, solid ground beneath me. I was back, but something was wrong. I opened my eyes, my vision blurred, my body weak. I heard voices, shouting, machines beeping, frantic footsteps rushing around me. "He's back! We have a pulse!" someone yelled. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. I could still feel the echoes of that place, of that being, of what it told me. I wasn't the same. I would never be the same. Hours passed. Maybe days. I drifted in and out of consciousness, my mind trapped between two realities, the one I had left and the one I returned to. And then finally, I woke up. For real. The hospital room was quiet, dimly lit. Machines hummed softly beside me, monitoring my every breath. My body felt weak, but my mind was sharper than ever. I looked down at my hands, at my arms, and there it was, my birthmark. It wasn't glowing anymore. It looked the same as it always had. But I knew the truth now. This wasn't just a mark. It never had been. I reached out, running my fingers over it, half expecting to feel something different. But the real difference wasn't in my skin. It was in me. I remembered everything, the shadows, the whispers, the truth about what this mark meant. And then a terrifying thought crossed my mind. How many others have these marks? A deep unease settled in my chest. I had never paid attention before, but now I couldn't ignore it. How many people walk through life carrying these scars without ever knowing their meaning? How many of them feel lost, drained, trapped, without realizing that they are being watched, without knowing that something is waiting for them? I needed to know more. I grabbed my phone, ignoring the pain in my body as I started searching. Birthmarks, past lives, reincarnation, spiritual scars. The results flooded the screen. Thousands of stories, testimonies, people all around the world with the same question. Some described birthmarks that looked like gunshot wounds, others like burns, stab wounds, deep scars that seemed out of place on a body that had never been harmed before. Could they all be the same? A chilling realization hit me. They don't know. None of them knew, and worse, they weren't supposed to know. I remembered what the being had said. The greatest trick darkness ever played was convincing the world that it does not exist. The weight of it crushed down on me. This truth had been buried, forgotten, erased, and now I had seen what I wasn't meant to see. I took a shaky breath. Couldn't be the only one. If I had been shown this truth, then others had to have seen it too. Others had to remember. I needed to find them. I needed to warn them, because if what I saw was real, then the shadows were watching, waiting. And they weren't done with me yet.